Well, we already talked about this, and we think it was going to happen already, but it's happened. According to Jeff Passan, the San Diego Padres are finalizing a trade to acquire left-hander Robbie Ray from the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I get it and understand it, no doubt.
As expected.
So now the million-dollar question is for what?
Well, the Padres, they've got some good prospects.
All right.
It's like
hopefully some are coming this way.
Well, that team is also a team that's going for it. It's like, but that's what I told you at the beginning of the show. It's like that's what I saw this weekend. I saw two teams going in opposite directions. Why? Well, I don't believe that the Padres can win a World Series.
They're in it though.
They are, and they're a team that always is aggressive at the deadline, and more importantly, they have a direction. And the Giants, I think, are beginning to establish one by selling their parts. They've been reluctant to move off of guys in previous deadlines because they've been in that, well, we're going to see mode. Remember, they didn't trade Robbie Ray last year. 2 years ago, it was Blake Snell who they didn't trade because they were in it, even though we all knew they weren't really in it, and they ended up missing the playoffs. So now we know which way they're going, and they're trying to recoup some pieces for it.
Well, I don't know if that's good news if timing is something that Giant fans or patients are running out of, because if you're telling me this is a reset or they're going to start over, oh my gosh, Evan, how long, the million-dollar question, I think is fair, how long is that going to take? And then when do you truly start that if Robbie Ray is the last Giant moved at the deadline and now on your books and in your outfield and infield, you have Chapman, Adames, and Devers. So we talked about it, haven't won a playoff series since 2014. With what you're putting down and these moves, and I'm not saying Robbie Ray, next year's all bad. I'm not saying that at all. But it sounds like they're going to the back of the line in regard to contending just for a wild card.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGM's FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, always live in the free Odyssey app and now broadcasting from the Laughing Monk Studios. Robbie Ray finalizing a deal. The Giants are to trade him to the San Diego Padres, according to Jeff Passan of ESPN. They've already traded Luis Arraez earlier this morning to the Philadelphia Phillies for their number 4 overall prospect, who is a right-handed pitcher. Caleb Killian also involved in the deal. And then over the weekend, they moved Tyler Mahle to the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
So they're sellers. They are selling.
Yeah, we knew it. There was no way that they were buying anything. But again, do you have a problem with me saying if the Giants are trying to find a direction and that direction is hit and restart, then it's going to take a while before they're in true contention?
Yes, but that's like...
And that's like a bitter pill.
Well, okay, so they've been a 500 team for the better part of the last 4 years. And people are realizing now, I think, that they're going to have to take a step back before they can take 2 steps forward. And, when you bring in... And this is too, like, you bring in guys that don't have a ton of experience. I think you have to give them time to fail. Buster Posey does not have a lot of experience, and we've seen some of the consequences of that inexperience, making not great investments, some of the trades that haven't panned out. But okay, so you give him some time. Maybe this Luis Arraez deal nets you a guy that could be a dude for you in a couple of years. Maybe this Robbie Ray trade brings in someone from the Padres that can really help you. Hell, if you look at right now, the amount of players that the Padres have traded in the last, I think it's like the last 5 or 7 years. Well, okay, they've traded James Wood. They've traded C.J. Abrams.
Just James Wood.
They've traded Juan Soto. They have traded away. They traded away Trey Turner at one point. They traded away a lot of really good guys that have turned out to be something at the major league level. So maybe there's somebody in this deal, and we're going to find out who exactly it is coming up in a little bit. But maybe that person ends up being a dude for you. And the thing about the Giants, it's like, as much as we haven't necessarily enjoyed the 500 baseball, to me what's been more doom and gloom about them the last 4 seasons is the fact that there's nothing next. We've been it was the Luis Matoses.
But you got Bryce now, and I know he's just one guy, but I feel like
you need more than one guy.
No doubt.
If you're going to compete in this division, you need a lot more than one guy.
But it's funny you bring that up, because now I'm thinking about if I'm Tony Vitello, and when I accepted the job, I had an 81 baseball team with Adames, Devers, Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, and the possibility of Bryce Eldridge coming up, and that made me take the job. But what does this mean for him And again, you tell me if I'm being negative, I'm being real. This is a colossal failure this season. We don't know if they're going to finish 25 or 30 under. My point is, what does this mean for him and what type of team he's managing? Because I got to believe when he took that team, he thought maybe, and I might be the missing ingredient. And with my energy and young, young look, everybody will flock to me, and that'll give this team a jolt. Now I'm wondering, what's he thinking about the team he's going to be managing moving forward after his debut season? We can already say no matter how the things end up, it's going to be awful. Like, is that going to be suffice for him?
No, but I also think it's like, okay, this year the team is not very good. We all know that. People are kind of giving Tony Vitello a mulligan. But if he continues to make mistakes that he did and has this season, next year, well, then you got to think about, is he the right manager for you? Buster Posey can't fire himself. That's up to ownership. But Tony Vitello is absolutely not. I don't think that he's a guy that has elevated this team this season. But to me, he's not the biggest problem.
Right.
And look, maybe Tony Vitello is supposed to kind of usher in this next wave of young Giants. I always felt like if you hire a guy like Tony Vitello, you're hiring someone you hope can build a culture. And to me, it's really hard to do that with established players. And
we're seeing that, and I think that's been a part of why this season has been not just unsuccessful, but kind of bitter in the sense that, okay, you're telling me now because what he's not, he can't check players, and this is bigger than baseball. This is off the diamond. He can't get in guys' face and be what he's supposed to be, the authority figure to a Major League Baseball team. Like, that doesn't match up. And now the baseball is exhibit A on that. There's no way anybody could tell me Tony Vitello or they feel good about the job he's doing. So now I'm making excuses for him to where I don't buy it, but how handcuffed is he because he came from the college ranks? Now you're telling me after this, what looks to be a colossal failure of a season, now they're going they're kind of restarting and he's going to be the guy?
I mean, as opposed to who? I don't think a veteran manager would want this job. You got to find a guy that's willing to take the post. Like Tony Vitello, I don't know. Like, to me, just when they hired him, it just reeked of desperation.
But I thought they were closer. Me personally, and I was wrong. I thought they were closer, 81 and 81, than what we're seeing now. So I kind of understood it to where he'd have that college aura to him, that the guys would flock to him and they would dig what he was putting down. And I'm not saying they're 18 under. He's made a bunch of mistakes along with the players, but damn, that didn't happen. And now I'm like, where does that leave him?
Well, it leaves him, I think, wondering exactly who he can trust on his staff, because there are guys that are a lot more legitimate than him in terms of managerial experience and in terms of decision-making. That's why I thought the Ron Washington piece was not piece, but the comments from this weekend were interesting. And for those who didn't catch it, this was on the Apple broadcast over the weekend on Friday Night Baseball. And I think it was Wayne Randazzo talking about Ron Washington speaking on Willy Adames.
Wash said it's been a little bit harder to get Willy Adames to commit to the work day in and day out, but Adames has been doing it lately, and he said you could see the improvements. Tony Vitello even said that whenever you see Adames and Wash work one-on-one, for the next 2 or 3 games, Adames is a much better defensive player.
I could fall out of my seat on, was that Ron Washington's job to even share that? But where was Tony when Ron was reporting on the days it's not good or it's hard to get, and I'm making this up, Adames to the gym to work on his craft? I mean, that's an issue right there that should have been nipped in the bud. But for that to leak out through Ron's words and not Tony, that makes me look at Tony like side-eyed.
Well, look,
what you mean, Adames? You better get your ass here and do what we need you to do.
Yeah, but this isn't Tennessee. Willy Adames has been in the league for 10 years. You're not going to tell him what he needs to do or not do. It doesn't matter what his stats are. And that's the thing. If Tony Vitello is going to come in here and think that he's going to remake the wheel and expect these guys to go out of their way to do something differently that's got them to a place where, like, Willy Adames is going to be a tenured baseball player with a pension in less than 365 days. He's making $150 million.
So the way you just said that, I love it. But now it makes me curious as to why Ron or even Tony would try to approach a seasoned guy like Adames and have him come work out with Ron. Because he's above that, I guess, Evan, if I'm understanding you correctly.
No, but I think, like, Ron Washington's always been someone who wants to work with people who want to work. He's not going to make you do anything. The other part of that I thought was interesting about this is, so Wayne Randazzo of Apple, he is also, I believe, the Angels broadcaster. And so how I imagine this going down was Ron Washington, who was the manager for the Angels last year, probably has a relationship with Wayne, and they're talking pregame because Wash is willing to talk and Wayne's doing his job. And Ron probably said something, and I don't think that the broadcast was trying to, blow up Adames, but Wash said something about how, like at the beginning of the year is probably tough, but now he's coming around and he's really making strides. But that key detail that it was tough at first, it's like that's what people are clinging to, that they don't like.
And that I get. Would you say I'm doing that?
Like that's my guess on how that information came about, because they have a relationship, and it wasn't like Wash went behind Vitello's back and said, I'm gonna air out this veteran who's not working hard. I don't think that's how it went down, but people didn't like it.
Yeah, and I'm not looking at it from that vantage point, E. I'm looking at it from the vantage point if Ron reported to Tony that was an issue, getting him to buy in. That's where the sheriff needs to come in, and I would expect, and maybe it could have happened, I don't know, but that's when I would expect Tony V to have a one-on-one with Adames. Like, what the hell's going on? When we task you with something to get you better at your craft, to help the team, the last thing, especially the way you were playing or started off, you should be the last dude, squawking it, not trying to do it. That's how I took that.
No, but I think, look, getting a veteran to do early work, it's not always going to happen.
You keep bringing up this ain't college.
No, you play 162 games. These guys are tired. It is August. These are the dog days. Getting someone to do extra work, which, by the way, it sounds like he's beginning to do at this stage in the season, I think that's, like, I know people don't want to hear a bad team talk about not working hard.
Right.
The reality of being a pro is they're not here to do everything. They're here to do what they believe gets them ready to play baseball every single night. And if that's not early work, that's not early work.
Man.
Ron Washington he was very helpful in improving Luis Arraez to being a good second baseman. He's helped a lot of the young players. I think that's who he's here to help. He's here to develop Eldridge at first base, or maybe it's outfield. Here to help Schmidt before he got hurt. Here to help a lot of these younger players.
But that's what I would expect Tony to say to Adames. Like, dude, if that popped off, and obviously it did at some juncture, why are you going against the grain? Do what we tell you, bud.
Yeah, and that's led to us being 18 games below 500. All right, 888-957-9570 is the number. Again, the news of the day right now is the Giants are in full sell mode. All right, Luis Arraez was traded to the Phillies earlier today. Just moments ago, Robbie Ray to the San Diego Padres. We're waiting to see what's going to be the return in that deal. Also, Tyler Mahle traded over the weekend to the Atlanta Braves. But the Giants are selling. What are you feeling about it?